The baby wasn't supposed to exist. Rachel walked into that boardroom, knowing the infant in her arms would destroy a billionaire. The mahogany table gleamed like dark water, reflecting expensive lies. Marcus Chun, her husband, her enemy, the father of this child, sat frozen across from her, his jaw slack, eyes wide with confusion that would soon curdle into something far more dangerous. His lawyer's pen clattered to the floor. What is this?" Marcus whispered, his voice cracking like thin ice. Rachel said nothing. She simply adjusted the baby's white blanket, the only pure thing in that room, and met his gaze with an expression that could freeze hell itself. But to understand why she brought a newborn to a divorce signing, you need to know about the will, the clause, and the year that broke them both. If you want to know how a marriage became a war, how a billionaire's fortune became a weapon, and how one woman brought a man to his knees with nothing but the truth, subscribe right now. Turn on notifications and hit that like button. Because what happens next will make you question everything you thought you knew about love and revenge. This story starts where most endings do, with death. 15 months earlier, Marcus Chin stood in his penthouse overlooking Seoul's Han River. Simone's lipstick still smeared on his collar like a brand. He was rehearsing lies, perfecting his performance. His father, Vincent Chun, the ruthless real estate magnate who'd built an empire crushing small businesses, had just died. Marcus thought he'd finally won. Then the lawyer read the will. The words landed like physical blows, each one stealing oxygen from the room. Marcus would inherit the $2 billion fortune only if he remained married to Rachel for 1 full year. 1 full year of pretending, of swallowing his pride, of keeping Simone waiting in the shadows like a dirty secret. If he divorced Rachel before the deadline, every penny would vanish into community land trusts, the very organizations Rachel had championed for years, the ones that fought against everything Marcus built. His father's final act of contempt, reaching from beyond the grave. But here's what made Marcus's blood run cold. What made his hands shake so badly he had to grip the armrest of his chair. The lawyer wouldn't tell him if Rachel knew about the clause. The old bastard Vincent had taken that secret to his coffin, leaving Marcus to navigate a minefield blindfolded. That night, Marcus went home to the woman he'd betrayed and dropped to his knees. The bedroom floor was cold beneath him, the same floor where he'd once promised to love Rachel forever, before ambition had poisoned everything beautiful between them. He wept, real tears, born from real desperation, though not from love. "Please," he choked out, his voice raw, "don't file the divorce yet. Give me 1 year. Just 1 year. Let me prove I can change. Let me prove I can be the man you married." Rachel stood above him, backlit by the window, her face carved from shadows. She lost weight. Dark circles haunted her eyes like bruises. She looked like a woman who'd been hollowed out by grief, carved empty by betrayal. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. 1 year, she finally said. Her voice was quiet. Final. Then we're done. Marcus nearly collapsed with relief. He bought himself time. 12 months to secure his fortune. Then he'd be free to start fresh with Simone, to build the life of ambition and success he'd always wanted. He had no idea he was already dead in the water. Because here's the truth Marcus didn't know. Rachel had discovered his affair not 2 months ago, as he believed. She'd known for 2 years. 2 years of watching him lie. 2 years of sleeping beside a man who came home smelling like another woman's perfume. 2 years of smiling at family dinners while planning his complete destruction. The day she found out, Rachel came home early from a community meeting. She heard sounds from their bedroom. Intimate, unmistakable. She stood in the hallway for 30 seconds, her hand on the doorknob, listening to her husband betray their 15-year marriage with enthusiastic passion. She didn't open the door. She walked back out of their apartment, got in her car, sat in the parking garage for 3 hours. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tight her knuckles went white. Outside, through the windshield, people walked past, laughing, texting, living normal lives. Inside Rachel's car, her entire world was imploding in complete silence. She cried until her throat bled, until her ribs ached. until she thought her chest would crack open from the pressure of grief. And then something inside her went cold. Clinical. Dangerous. She didn't confront Marcus. She documented him. For 2 years, Rachel became someone new. She compiled evidence like a prosecutor building a case. Every bribe Marcus paid to city officials. Every family his firm had displaced through intimidation and legal loopholes. Every environmental regulation he'd violated to cut costs on his luxury developments. She had spreadsheets, recordings, photographs, testimonies from people whose lives Marcus had crushed in his climb toward wealth and status. A lawsuit so airtight it would destroy not just Marcus's firm, but his entire legacy. She planned to give him the affair as a gift. A clean excuse for divorce that would spare their daughter Maya from knowing the full truth about her father's corruption. Then Vincent called. The old man's voice on the phone was weak, ravaged by the cancer eating him alive. "Rachel, I need to see you. Alone." They met in his hospital room. Machines beeped. The smell of antiseptic couldn't quite mask the scent of approaching death. "I know what my son has become," Vincent said, his eyes wet with shame. "I made him this way. Taught him that money matters more than people. That winning justifies any cost. And now I'm dying, and all I have left is regret." He reached for her hand with fingers like paper. "Help me write my will," Vincent continued. "Help me give him one last chance to choose differently. To choose love over fortune. To choose the man he could have been." Rachel looked at this dying billionaire. This man who'd built an empire on ruthlessness and was now desperate for redemption, and felt something shift inside her. "What did you have in mind?" she asked. Together, they crafted the clause. 1 year of marriage. A test. A final chance for Marcus to remember who he'd been before ambition had turned him into his father's son. Vincent died 3 days after signing the will, and Rachel began the longest performance of her life. For 12 months, they played house. Marcus threw himself into the role with Oscar-worthy dedication. He canceled high-stakes meetings to have lunch with Rachel. He brought home flowers, her favorites, orchids and peonies, which he'd forgotten years ago but clearly researched. He suggested couples therapy, sat through sessions where he confessed to losing his way, promised to rebuild what he'd destroyed. It was almost convincing. Almost. Rachel watched him perform love like a trained actor, knowing every gesture was calculated, every vulnerability rehearsed, every tear measured for maximum effect. She played her part too, the wounded wife, cautiously hopeful, slowly thawing. Behind the scenes, Simone grew venomous with impatience. "How long are you going to play house?" she hissed during their secret meetings in hotel rooms that smelled like expensive sheets and cheaper decisions. "She's never going to take you back. You're humiliating yourself. Wasting time. Just trust me," Marcus would say, though trust was a language neither of them spoke fluently. "Trust you." Simone's laugh was sharp enough to draw blood. "You're choosing poverty over partnership. Sentiment over success. When this blows up in your face, don't come crawling back to me." But Marcus couldn't tell her about the will. Couldn't admit that everything, the romance, the therapy, the carefully crafted redemption arc, was just a billion-dollar performance. Then something neither Marcus nor Rachel anticipated began to shift. Their daughter Maya started coming out of her room. At first, it was small things. Subtle. She'd sit at the dinner table instead of taking food to her bedroom. She'd linger in the living room while Marcus and Rachel watched movies, pretending not to watch them pretend to be happy. She'd ask questions about their day, her voice tentative, testing whether this fragile piece might actually hold. "How was work, Dad? Did your meeting go okay, Mom?" Simple questions, but coming from a girl who'd been silent for months, they felt like miracles. Rachel noticed the scars on a Tuesday morning. Maya was reaching for a glass of water, wearing a tank top, unusual for a girl who'd worn long sleeves through Seoul's brutal summer heat. The movement pulled her arm into the light. Thin white lines, like delicate brushstrokes across her wrists. Rachel's breath stopped. Her vision tunneled. The kitchen tilted sideways. How long had those been there? How long had Maya been carving her pain into her own skin while Rachel plotted revenge against her father? The scars caught the morning light, delicate, deliberate, a map of suffering written in her own hand. Rachel's mind raced backward. The breakfast Maya didn't eat. The clothes that hung like curtains on her shrinking frame. The paintings she'd stopped creating. The friends she'd stopped seeing. The door that stayed closed, locked, silent. All the signs Rachel had been too consumed by vengeance to see. Maya, Rachel said carefully, her voice threatening to break. Can we talk? Her daughter's face went pale. She pulled her arm back, covering the scars. It's nothing. It's not nothing. That night, after Maya had gone to bed, Rachel told Marcus. They sat in the living room, 2 feet of space between them on the couch, the physical distance of their emotional reality. She's been cutting herself, Rachel said. The words felt like glass in her throat. I don't know for how long. Months, maybe. Marcus's face crumbled. For once, the emotion looked genuine. What do we do? Therapy. Immediately. And we need to actually be present. Not performing. Not playing parts. Actually there. For the first time in their year of pretending, they had a real conversation. About their daughter's pain. About their failure as parents. About how their war had become collateral damage in Maya's young life. She thinks the divorce is her fault, Rachel whispered. She told me yesterday. She thinks she wasn't good enough to keep us together. Marcus made a sound like something breaking. God, we did this. Both of us. They made an appointment with a therapist the next morning. Started actually talking to Maya. Not at her, but with her. Listening. Being present. And slowly, painfully, their daughter began to speak. I thought if I was perfect, Maya said in her 3rd therapy session, her voice small, you wouldn't leave each other. I thought if I got good grades, didn't cause problems, made myself smaller, maybe you'd stay. Rachel reached for her hand. Marcus did too. They sat on either side of their daughter, connected through her pain. None of this is your fault, Rachel said. None of it. But Maya didn't believe her. How could she, when the adults in her life had been lying about everything? The weeks passed. Maya started eating breakfast again. Started painting dark, abstract pieces that reflected her pain, but also her survival. She went to therapy twice a week. Some days were better than others. And in the spaces between their performances, Rachel saw glimpses of the boy she'd fallen in love with in college. The Marcus who'd wanted to design community centers and libraries before his father's money and expectations had twisted him into something else. The one who'd stayed up all night helping her paint protest signs, who'd believed in making the world gentler. I don't know when I became him, Marcus said one night, after they'd gotten Maya to eat half a meal. A small victory that felt monumental. My father. I swore I never would. And then one day, I woke up, and I was worse. Rachel almost told him about the will then. Almost revealed that she'd known everything from the beginning. But something held her back. Then month 6 arrived like a thief in the night. Rachel had been feeling tired for weeks. Bone-deep exhaustion she dismissed as stress from managing Maya's crisis and maintaining her own performance. Then came the pain in her breast. Subtle at first, easy to ignore, until it wasn't. The mammogram showed shadows. The biopsy confirmed them. The doctor's face was carefully compassionate as she delivered news that rewrote everything. Stage 1 breast cancer, the oncologist said, her voice gentle but firm. Very treatable. Excellent prognosis. But we need to start treatment immediately. Rachel sat in the examination room, wearing a paper gown that crinkled with every breath and felt the world tilt on its axis. She had choices to make, limited energy to spend. She could fight cancer and fight Marcus. She could pursue the lawsuit, expose his corruption, watch his world burn while her own body waged war against itself. Or she could choose something else, something that terrified her more than dying. She could choose to let go. Rachel sat in her car in the hospital parking garage, the same place she'd cried 2 years ago after discovering Marcus's affair. History repeating itself in the fluorescent-lit tomb of concrete and exhaust. But this time, she wasn't crying. She was calculating. Chemotherapy would start in a week. 6 months of treatment. Her hair would fall out. Her body would betray her. She'd need help, support, energy for healing. She could spend that energy on revenge. Or she could spend it on her daughter. The choice should have been obvious. But revenge had sustained her for so long. The lawsuit was ready. The evidence was damning. One phone call, and Marcus's entire empire would collapse like a house of cards. Rachel's phone buzzed. A text from Maya. "Mom, where are you? Are you okay?" She stared at those words for a long time. Then she made her choice. She chose Maya. Choosing. Chose the possibility that people, even people who'd done terrible things, might be capable of actual change. She deleted the lawyer's number from her phone. But before she could tell anyone about the cancer, the decision was made for her. Simone had grown tired of waiting. She'd hired a private investigator, the expensive kind, the kind who could smell secrets through concrete walls and legal barriers. The investigator had found the will, had photographed it, had delivered it to Simone with a knowing smile and a substantial bill. Simone read the clause 3 times, her rage building like a pressure system. She'd been the other woman, the patient lover, the one waiting in luxury hotel rooms while Marcus played devoted husband. And it had all been for money. Not love, not desire, not even genuine ambition. Just cold, calculated greed. Her fury was incandescent. She forwarded the will to Marcus at 11:47 p.m. with a single message. She knew. She's always known. "You pathetic fool." Marcus was in his home office, reviewing architectural plans for his redemption project, the affordable housing complex that was supposed to prove he'd changed. His phone buzzed on the desk. He almost didn't check it. Then he saw Simone's name. The message loaded. Below the text, a PDF. Vincent's will, dated 18 months ago. Signed by his father, the lawyer, and Hachel's signature. Marcus read the document once. Twice. 3 times, his hands shaking so badly the phone nearly slipped from his grip. The words blurred. His father's signature at the bottom looked like an accusation. Rachel's name next to it. A betrayal in black ink. The clause. The billion-dollar manipulation. The year he'd spent groveling, performing, degrading himself. Rachel had orchestrated all of it with his dying father. She'd sat in that lawyer's office and helped craft his humiliation. She'd watched him dance and squirm for 12 months, knowing she held all the power. The humiliation was total, absolute, complete. The rage that rose in him was volcanic. White hot. He was going to confront her, destroy her, make her feel one fraction of the shame coursing through his veins like poison. He stormed through the house, ready for war. He found her on the bathroom floor, vomiting into the toilet. The tiles were cold, clinical. Rachel's skin had that translucent quality that comes from poison, saving your life by nearly killing you. And 4 bag hung from a makeshift stand. She'd started chemotherapy that morning and hadn't told him. And just like that, the rage died. "How long?" Marcus asked quietly, kneeling beside her without thinking, pulling her hair back from her face with trembling hands. "The cancer?" Rachel's voice was raw, stripped of pretense. 6 months since diagnosis. Same as when you found out about the will. You knew. About the clause. About everything your father and I planned. Yes. Why didn't you just take the money and destroy me? You could have. You had the power. You had the evidence. Rachel looked at him with eyes that had seen too much, survived too much. Because Maya was cutting herself. Because our daughter was starving herself. Because I realized that revenge tastes like ashes when your child is dying inside. Marcus felt something break open inside his chest. Not the clean break of a bone, but the messy rupture of something rotten finally being lanced. "I'm sorry," he said, and for the first time in months, maybe years, he meant it with every fiber of his being. "I know," Rachel said. "So am I." They sat on the bathroom floor together, 2 people who destroyed something beautiful and were only now beginning to understand what they'd lost. "I want to sign over half the inheritance," Marcus said, "to the charities. The ones my father wanted. I'll shut down the firm. Start over. Build what I should have been building all along." Rachel studied his face, searching for the lie, the angle, the performance. But all she saw was exhaustion and something that looked dangerously close to genuine remorse. "You don't have to do that," she said quietly. "The year isn't up. You could still walk away with everything. I don't want it. Not like this." Marcus's voice cracked. "Not if it means becoming more of what I already hate about myself." Rachel laughed. a bitter sound that echoed off the bathroom tiles. You realize this is exactly what your father wanted? For you to choose differently. To be better. The manipulative bastard, Marcus said, but there was affection in his voice. Grief too. He knew me better than I knew myself. Marcus made the call on a Wednesday. His lead attorney sat across from him in the corner office, pen hovering over a contract worth $40 million. The kind of deal that would have made the old Marcus salivate. The kind built on displaced families and buried environmental violations. I'm not signing it, Marcus said. The attorney blinked. I'm sorry. I'm not signing. Cancel the project. Refund the investors. And pull the files on every development we've done in the last 8 years. Everything. I want a full audit. Marcus, that will destroy. I know it will destroy. Do it anyway. That was the first domino. The others fell quickly. He called press conferences and confessed to bribes he could have buried forever. He wrote checks to families his firm had crushed. He donated buildings, actual buildings, to housing cooperatives and community land trusts. The business world called him insane. Simone called him a coward and disappeared into the arms of another developer with sharper edges and fewer scruples. But Maya started eating breakfast again. And for the first time in years, Marcus slept through the night. Month 11 arrived with autumn leaves and cautious hope. Maya had gained weight. Not much, but enough that her clothes fit properly again. Rachel's cancer markers were improving with each test. Marcus's new firm was slowly gaining respect from the very organizations that had once opposed him. Vincent's money funded it all. Half to charity, as promised. Half to rebuilding what Marcus had torn down. The performances had stopped. There were just 3 people trying to heal together. But Rachel still hadn't told Maya the complete truth. Maya wasn't looking for secrets. She was looking for tax forms. Her economics teacher had assigned a project on household budgets, and Rachel kept all the financial documents in her home office. Maya had permission to be there. Permission to open drawers. Permission to look through files. She just wasn't supposed to find the red folder. It was tucked behind mortgage statements and insurance policies, like someone had hidden it in a hurry and forgotten. The tab read, Evidence MC. Her father's initials. Maya's hands trembled as she opened it. Photographs spilled out first. Her father and a woman Maya didn't recognize, tangled together in hotel rooms. Kissing in parking garages. The woman's hand on Marcus's thigh in restaurant booths. Dozens of images spanning years. Then came the recordings. Audio files labeled with dates going back 3 years. She clicked one with shaking fingers. Her father's voice, clear and cold. Tell the inspector we'll make it worth his while. Everyone has a price. Find his. Then spreadsheets. Bribes detailed like grocery lists. Payoffs to city officials. Families forced out of homes through intimidation and manufactured legal violations. And finally, at the bottom, her grandfather's will. The clause highlighted in yellow. Notes in Rachel's handwriting. V wants to give M a chance to choose differently. 1 year to see if love matters more than money. Maya sat on the floor of her mother's office, surrounded by evidence of betrayals layered like geological strata, and felt reality rearrange itself into something unrecognizable. Everything was a lie. The reconciliation, the therapy sessions, her father's tears, her mother's forgiveness, the entire year of careful healing. All of it performance, all of it manipulation, all of it built on a foundation of secrets while Maya had been cutting herself in the bathroom, thinking she was the problem. She confronted them at dinner, the folder clutched in her hands like a weapon. When were you going to tell me? Her voice shook with fury. That dad cheated? That grandpa's will was a test? That you knew about the money the whole time? That this whole year has been some kind of sick game? The silence was deafening. Rachel and Marcus exchanged glances. There was no script for this. No performance that could smooth over the jagged edges of truth. It wasn't a game, Rachel said carefully. It started as something else. But Maya, it became real. Your father's change, his commitment to doing better, that's real. Is it? Maya turned to Marcus, her eyes burning. Or are you just a really good actor? Marcus set down his fork. His hands were steady, but his voice wasn't. Both, he said quietly. I started acting, pretending to be someone worth saving. But somewhere along the way, watching you hurt yourself while I destroyed lives, I couldn't live with that anymore. I wanted to actually become that person. Not for the money, not to fool your mother, but because the alternative was becoming my father completely. So, I was just a prop in your redemption arc? Maya's voice could have cut steel. No, Rachel's voice was firm, commanding. You were the wake-up call. For both of us. I was so focused on punishing your father that I almost missed you crying for help. I chose you, Maya. Over revenge, over justice, over everything. I chose you. Tears streamed down Maya's face. But you still lied. All of you. Grandpa, you dad. Everyone was playing games while I was trying not to disappear. I know, Rachel whispered. And I'm sorry. I'm so desperately sorry. The silence that followed was heavy with all the words they'd left unsaid for too long. Finally, Maya spoke. I want the truth. All of it. Every detail. No more performances. No more protection. Just truth. So they told her everything. The affair that had lasted years. The will crafted in secret between Rachel and Vincent. Rachel's planned lawsuit with evidence that could have destroyed Marcus. The cancer diagnosis. Marcus's genuine transformation from calculated actor to someone actually trying to be better. The pregnancy neither of them had planned. Wait, the pregnancy. Rachel's hand moved to her stomach, still flat, but not for much longer. There's one more thing, Rachel said softly. Something I haven't told either of you yet. Maya and Marcus both froze. I'm pregnant. The words detonated in the silence. Maya's mouth fell open. Marcus's face went through a dozen expressions: shock, confusion, joy, terror, wonder, before landing on something that looked like a man drowning and surfacing simultaneously. Ow, and Marcus managed. Month 8, after my last chemo session, when we thought I was finally in the clear. We'd had wined, too much wine, and we were celebrating, and we were careless, and, oh my God, Maya said. This family is completely insane. Yes, Rachel agreed. But it's ours. Messy and broken and somehow still standing. Maya walked to her room, closed the door, didn't come out for 2 days. Rachel and Marcus sat in the wreckage of their confession, wondering if honesty had been the right choice after all. But on the third morning, Maya emerged. Her eyes were red but clear. I'm still angry, she said, but I'm also grateful. You chose us, chose me, even when it was messy and complicated and probably easier to just keep lying. That has to count for something. Rachel pulled her daughter into her arms and wept. Then came the anniversary of Vincent's death. 1 year and 1 day. The deadline. The baby sleeping in Rachel's arms wasn't just a child. She was a confession. A consequence. The final proof that some things, the messy, unplanned, impossibly complicated things, are more real than any performance could ever be. Marcus had no idea Rachel was pregnant during the divorce proceedings. No idea that while he was signing away their marriage, he was gaining a daughter. They sat in the lawyer's office, the same mahogany table where this journey began. Divorce papers arranged in neat stacks. Maya had chosen to stay home this time, not ready to witness this ending even though she understood its necessity. But Rachel had brought grace. 3 weeks old. Tiny. Perfect. Impossible. You could have told me before, Marcus said, holding his daughter for the first time, his voice thick with wonder. About the pregnancy. I could have, Rachel agreed. But you needed to see her here, in this office, where we ended one thing and started another. You needed to understand that endings and beginnings aren't always separate. Marcus looked down at Grace, then up at Rachel, understanding finally settling over him like dawn breaking. He really did save me, didn't he? The old man. Even from the grave. He saved all of us, Rachel said. But mostly we saved ourselves. The lawyer cleared his throat. I assume this changes. No, Marcus and Rachel said simultaneously. Marcus continued, never taking his eyes off his daughter. Grace gets a trust fund, but I'm not changing who I become. She'll grow up watching her father build things that matter. Her mother fight for people who need fighting for. Her sister paint her pain into art. She'll grow up knowing the truth, Rachel added. About all of it. No performances. No pretty lies. They signed the papers. Every page. Every line. ending their marriage with the same care they'd once started it. Honestly, deliberately, together. "We're still partners," Marcus said, echoing words he'd rehearsed months ago, but now genuinely meant. "In everything that matters." "Just not in this," Rachel agreed. They shook hands across the table. It felt like the most honest thing they'd done in years. As they left the office, not a couple, but something more complicated and perhaps more valuable, Rachel thought about Vincent. About how his final manipulation had been the most loving thing anyone had ever done for his son. The inheritance had never really been about money. It was about legacy, about breaking cycles, about learning that sometimes the hardest person to save is yourself. Grace is 3 weeks old in this story. But what happens when she turns 16? The same age Maya was when everything fell apart. What happens when she finds out her parents signed divorce papers the day before she was born? What happens when Simone returns? Because women like that always return, with secrets about Vincent's fortune that even Rachel doesn't know. And what happens when Marcus discovers that his father's will had a second clause? One that activates when Grace comes of age? One that Rachel doesn't know about either? The inheritance was never just about money. It was about breaking cycles. But some cycles don't break. They just skip a generation. If you want to know what happens when the past catches up to Grace, when Maya discovers her own grandfather's hidden secrets, and when the second clause tears this family apart all over again, subscribe and hit that notification bell right now. Smash that like button if this story made you feel something real. Drop a comment and tell me, would you have brought the baby to that meeting? Would you have chosen revenge or healing? Share this video with someone who believes in messy, complicated, impossible second chances. The next chapter will shatter everything you think you know about this family. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story.